Hello everyone, it's Omae and welcome back to the brand new video. I am excited. We have a lot of information with today's update. We have a pretty good idea of what the timeline is going to look like. The summer Sugo-Fest is here. It will be starting this weekend in preparation for the Sugo-Fest, and we will see the full red structure of Sugo-Fest with 3 major Sugo-Fests. 1 to 2 Super Sugos, and also maybe a regular Sugo-Fest in between. So today I'm going to give you all the clues that we have, the evidence that supports LOKI debuting this weekend, and what we could see his type classes be looking like, and just all the concrete evidence. There's a surprising amount of it. So let's get straight into the video. So first off, why do we think the Sugo-Fest is starting this weekend? Because it is quite early. A lot of the time the summer Sugo-Fest only begins early August, and then there's kind of an overlap between the summer Sugo-Fest and One Piece Day celebration. So we did get this notification here on the Twitter account. You can tweet character predictions and we will get a decent amount of Rainbow Tavern medals here, and this is actually lasting for a very short amount of time, only 2 days. It's already started. It will end on Wednesday, so the day treasure map begins. I think a few hours after that it will end. So it is a very short time period. It makes sense that there'll be a few days break, and then on Saturday they'll announce the characters that will be released, and then on Sunday we should get the in-game notice and potentially even the banners already out, maybe on Monday, right? So there is a lot of evidence to support that LOKI will be the character that is revealed on Saturday. Now, first off, here is the kind of teaser that we got this morning. It's a very short GIF. It just shows the Giants having the celebration upon the Strite's arrival. We can see the beautiful scenery of Albath, but I do think this is kind of hinting at the undertone of LOKI being trapped in the sort of underground of Albath. So I think this is more of a hint of a contrast between like the joyful outer atmosphere of Albath and them celebrating, and LOKI being chained in that frozen hell, right? So I do think this is like kind of a hint towards LOKI, but it's definitely not enough of an evidence to go off of. This could also just be Shamrock and Ganko, and this could be them crashing the party almost. So there's a lot that this could be, but I don't think this is related to Gaban. I 100% believe that Gaban is either part 2 or part 3 of the Super Sugo celebration, right? So definitely LOKI or Shamrock or Ganko for the first part based off of this. Okay, now we'll get into the actual context clues that are hidden within the game that is very easy to miss if you're not trying to look for it. So first off, we did get a Rayleigh Bazaar update today, and we got 2 free-to-play units added, being Albath Zoro and Albath Sanji. I'll make a separate video trying to showcase these units, but these are characters that won't synergize with the Albath Luffy end of month batch, which is more striker-centric. These units are very interesting, and if you look at their abilities, it's a major hint at us seeing LOKI as the first part character. Okay, so if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the characters exchanged here on the Rayleigh Bazaar, you'll find the new Zoro and Sanji, which are available from clearing the tutorial. But if you've already cleared the tutorial, you can just buy them here in the Rayleigh Bazaar. Now these are already pretty interesting free-to-play units, not bad for being only 1 Rayleigh point, but the type and classes here, Zoro is a side slasher free spirit, Sanji is a dex fighter powerhouse. Of course, no common types or classes here. However, if we look at both of their sailor abilities, so Zoro makes sure his tandem slots have matching slot effects when captain is a strength or psi character. So of course Zoro is a psi unit himself, but why strength? And then we look at Sanji, it's the exact same scenario. He has sailor ability here, mace recovery matching when the captain is either strength or dex, and of course Sanji is dex. So there's a common theme here. They are meant to support some strength unit that will be coming out, and I personally don't believe that a Sanji and Zoro unit would ever be supporting a Shamrock or Ganko. It just doesn't make sense. But for LOKI, yeah, you can definitely see it, them supporting a LOKI character, because I mean they are helping, or Zoro at least is helping them free LOKI by finding the key, right? So I think that's a major clue there. Next major clue, the Pirate Rumble season that we're currently having with Block A. So a lot of the times in the past, this is actually a major clue. It very often does hint at which characters will be coming out. A Rumble season is very long. I mean, it's going to end on the 9th of August, so that's in almost a month's time. Block A currently is underway with the rules favoring Legend Lafitte. So quick free spirit striker is a major theme for Block A. They get major buffs. But one thing you'll notice throughout the entire Rumble season, two tags that are getting buffed, Albafok and Royalty. Now, very major hint here actually, because of the three groups of legends that we could be seeing throughout the Sugo-Fest, Shamrock Ganko, LOKI, and Rayleigh Gaban, and potentially another Luffy legend. We could actually see a Gaban versus Luffy based on next week's episode, right? But that's not for this video, that's a different speculation. But out of these three groups, the only character that will have a royalty tag is LOKI. You might think, okay, Shamrock is a Holy Knight. I think Ganko's a Holy Knight as well. So wouldn't they have a royalty tag? But if you look at Figurlin Garling, the Int Legend, he does not have royalty tag. They are Celestial Dragons, but not a royalty unit. Yeah, Figurlin Garling, he's a Holy Knight, no royalty tag. Of course, Gaban is a pirate, he's not a royalty tag. But LOKI, the Prince of Albaf, is undeniably a royalty character. So this season's, well, I haven't even unlocked the Rumble on this account. So this Rumble season is heavily favoring LOKI characters. Of course, all of them will be Albaf, but royalty being highlighted here is quite interesting. And then there's a lot of context clues based on the individual blocks, what types and classes are being boosted. Now, Block B, Strength, Cerebral, Powerhouse. There's LOKI's, that's literally what I believe LOKI will be. Strength, Cerebral, Powerhouse. He's gonna be Powerhouse to have synergy with Hyridin and other giant characters. He very likely is going to be a Strength character, because as I showed you before, the Zora and Sanji are supporting a Strength unit. And then the Cerebral class, it also makes sense. LOKI is quite a smart character, and I'm pretty sure that's what the Cerebral class is based off of. But I believe he'll also have very good synergy with Shanks. 12th Annie Shanks being a Strength Cerebral based unit. And of course, Powerhouse is basically a given at this point. Now, some may think, okay, Shamrock was revealed to be Shanks' twin brother, so they should have synergy. But I mean, it's very clear that Shamrock kind of distances himself from Shanks. He called Shanks his estranged brother, so I don't believe they would have synergy. I do think it would be more likely that LOKI and Shanks would have synergy. Of course, LOKI does say he doesn't like Shanks' guts, but I feel like there's some sort of camaraderie there, or at least a respect, a mutual respect. And I was hoping that LOKI would counter the Emu and Shanks meta, but I think it's more likely that this unit is going to be a Strength Cerebral and actually join that team, which is kind of scary, right? And I mean, the timelines match up perfectly. Kizune is starting on the 22nd of July, 1900 PST. Or not 1900 PST, the 21st of July, 1900 PST. So for me, that is Wednesday morning. Block B is starting at the exact same time as the Super Boss Kizuna, and I think it's just so perfect that LOKI will be boosted for both Block B and the Super Boss. It just makes so much sense, and as I said, it's very likely that part 2 in Block B will be LOKI related, since these are the classes and types. It all just matches up, right? It feels too perfect. And then we look at Block C. Dex, Striker, Fighter. Gaban. Scopper Gaban, I mean, it makes so much sense. He will have synergy with 12th Annie Luffy being a Dex fighter unit, and of course he does have his two axes or cleaves, I don't know what you call them, which I mean, you could argue he's going to be a slasher, but I think Striker fits more with that kind of weapon, right? And Rayleigh can throw hands, he can also be a fighter, it makes sense, and I do believe he will be Dex. It does feel very perfect, right? And then when it comes to championships and exhibition, I don't think we'll get Shamrock and Ganko yet. I don't think that we will have them in such close proximity. For Gaban, it makes sense because if we get LOKI this weekend, so around about the 16th or 17th of July, then Block C only starts on the 30th of July, right? So there's a massive gap here, almost 2 weeks. And I don't think that Gaban will release on this date. I think he'll be somewhere in the first week of August, right? But I know there will be the second part somewhere in this Block C window, right? And I believe Gaban makes the most sense. And then the championships, there's not much of a hint here. It's kind of just a mashup between everything. So strength, Loki, and powerhouse Loki as well. We have quick, so the Blackbeard Pirates and Lafitte are still getting representation here. I don't think we will see Shamrock or Ganko before the Rumble season ends, right? Which is the 9th of August, 6 a.m. PST. So those are like the two major hints, the Rumble season as well as the Rayleigh Bazaar, right? And then of course we have the Super Evolution of Luffy, which will be happening in this Super Boss Kizuna next week, which I believe is perfect that Loki debuts at the same time as Albaf Luffy Quick, who is a and if Loki is a strength character, then Luffy will have type advantage against Loki. It's very interesting. Luffy has been confirmed, by the way, to be a quick unit for Super Evolution, so keep that in mind. Quick Luffy, Albaf Super Evolution, Strength Loki, Cerebral Powerhouse, Dex Gaban, Fighter Striker, and then I believe Shamrock and Ganko will be quick units as well. I just feel like that will make sense for them to counter Shanks and Loki. Of course, it wouldn't really make as much sense for them to counter Emu, since they're both kind of celestial dragons, but when it comes to Shanks and Loki, it makes sense that they would counter them, right? So that's quite interesting. Don't quote me on all this. It is speculation at the end of the day, but I believe it's very strongly supported, right? And I believe, yes, the first part will be mainly for the Super Boss Kizuna. Loki will be involved. And then for the second part, it'll be more geared towards the end of month batch Sugo-Fest. These units will be boosted, or the Gaban, I believe, will be boosted for next month's PKA. Which, by the way, PKA will start on the 27th of July, which is very close to when I expect Gaban to release as well, right? And then I think part 3 will happen, which will only be for next month's treasure map. I believe that's how it'll end. We're starting off with the Kizuna Super Sugo, which is already very different from previous years, but it's still definitely a possibility. Part 2 will be end of month batch, Assault Rumble, PKA, co-op, which, by the way, it'll be the end of the season, so this co-op will have the Grand Feast Sugo-Fest as well. And then after the Grand Feast Sugo-Fest, I believe we'll get the treasure map batch, which will be Shamrock and Ganko. That's my main predictions. And we also did get a few assets downloaded into the game that Two Shanks found in the files. Now, I do want to talk about this mainly in a separate video, but this is new effects that we found in the game. This seems to be a territory, either potential ability or status effect icon, not status effect, an icon buff or debuff. It seems to be a territory buff, like increasing the effect of a territory, which currently, as it stands, all territories work in the exact same way, that if all 6 units on your team match the territory, you get a universal 1.5x attack boost. But this could increase that multiplier to make territories even stronger, and that could make a massive impact. Remember, territories can stack up to 3 territories. It's essentially going to be 1.5x multiplied by 1.5x multiplied by 1.5x. If you introduce a buff to make those territories 1.75x instead, that could be insane. And then we also got another icon debuff to go alongside with this, which seems to be a territory cancel debuff. Here it is. It's essentially that exact same icon that you saw there, but now with a cancel effect over it. So that could either be a buff that the enemy has, which prevents your territories from being active, or it could be a debuff that you inflict onto the enemy to cancel out enemy territories. But I do think that would be a bit counterintuitive, right? Because when you put your territory on the field, it immediately forces the enemy's territory off the field, right? So it'd be pointless to have a territory cancel effect on the enemy, where you could just put your own territory, which will innately remove the enemy's one. So I do believe this will be more of a debuff that you get on your team, which could definitely hamper your damage significantly. Now, I don't believe that this will be a common debuff. I think this will be like a punishment if you don't beat the stage 2 of the Kizuna in like the first 3 turns. The enemy runs away in Super Boss Kizuna if you can't kill stage 2 within a certain amount of turns. And just like the potential ability cancel debuff they give you for 10 turns, I believe they'll also cancel your territories just to kind of discourage you from cheesing your way through Super Boss, right? So I don't think that will be a very significant debuff, but it will be there. It also would make sense if Shamrock somehow got involved with this debuff, since he kind of just invades the Elbaf territory, even in their own domain, and he's just kind of beating up everyone. He destroyed those gods, so it would make sense if he had some way to nerf territories or buff them. I have no idea, but it could be an interesting effect regardless. And you can also see in this one here, that's definitely a silhouette of a pirate flag, which is the territory icon, right? And then we also got all of these effects added to the game assets, which could also hint at Shamrock or Loki or some new ability, right? Very, very interesting, right? These were not in the game before. And then we also have this icon, which it seems to be the haste icon for Pirate Rumble, a new one. Very cool, right? But that's about it. I don't want to talk about too many other things. I have several videos coming out talking about the PKA, which, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of stuff to talk about when it comes to PKA this season in particular. A lot of the details that people have questions about, I will answer them in a separate video, so stay tuned for that. Also, we'll talk about Shamrock, what I believe he will do, in a separate video, so stay tuned. I am excited for the Summer Sugo-Fest of 2026. How about you? What do you think? Do you think this evidence is substantial enough to suggest that we will be getting Loki as the Part 1 legend this weekend announced for the Super Boss next week? Thank you guys for watching. Have a great day. Make sure to like, subscribe. Peace. And I'm out.